This isn't a rumor anymore. This isn't online chatter. This is a paper trail, and it points straight at Meghan Markle as her charity empire collapses, her lifestyle brand implodes, and the ears quietly circles like a shark that smells blood in the water. $23 million in unsold inventory, millions spent, almost nothing donated, staff fleeing, financial filings missing, and a foundation that looks less like charity and more like a personal ATM. And once you see the receipts, you'll understand why Meghan is panicking.
Breaking today, the implosion of the Sussexes. Meghan Markle's Archewell charity scam and as ever lies have finally been exposed, and an astonishing double blow for the fake. To get into it all,
Look, there's been leaked financial details from the Archewell Foundation that's quite fascinating because it shows that there's...
Are they insane? What is happening? There is complete and utter chaos going on. The Meg and Herald are taking their rebrands far too literally at this point.
Let's talk a little Harry and Meghan. Their Archewell Foundation has been declared delinquent by the state of California, meaning it is not in good standing as a charity and not permitted to engage in activities like raising and spending money, pretty much all you would expect a charitable fund to do.
As ever, we know, launched in April of last year, and Meghan started off with raspberry spread, the flower sprinkles, the teas, and a honey. And we've had a couple of little bits and pieces added to it since then.
Markle finally achieved something in 2025 without having to buy it. Villain of the Year, Worst TV Show of 2025, Most Disliked Celebrity, a clean sweep that confirms one thing: the public is done.
I think where the problem lies is the fact that Harry and Meghan, when they do have a camera in front of them and when they are in a position to communicate with the public, they're not promoting that charity.
Meghan Markle spent all year long talking about success, desperately trying to sell this image of being this successful businesswoman, this CEO and philanthropist. The amount of publicity she bought in 2025.
It is understood that the Archewell Foundation did not pay the necessary fees correctly and was unaware of the issue until the delinquency notice was issued. Gabby?
Sitting on a bunch of inventory is never ever good. And remember, Meghan said that she ordered like 1 million jar toppers or whatever.
$23 million. That's how much unsold product Meghan Markle is sitting on right now. Jam jars, spreads, candles, perishable goods rotting in warehouses, while the IRS circles Archewell like vultures. And what's been uncovered about this foundation is so bad, it's no longer damage control. It's survival mode. Because here's the problem. Meghan and Harry want you to believe Archewell is this noble humanitarian force, a beacon of compassion, a global do-good operation changing lives. But that story collapses the second you actually look at the numbers.
This has been like the last week of 2025 just revealed how catastrophically bad things are going for Harry and Meghan. Archewell is essentially done. Any aspect of their charity has essentially collapsed completely, and it's been revealed for what it really always was, which is a publicity stunt. They were completely and utterly willing to throw aside the people they were supposed to help, and now we have this situation where it's all their art. It's just artifice. It's just there for show.
Archewell launched in 2020, right after Meghan and Harry detonated their royal exit and fled to California. Named after Archie, wrapped in emotional branding, loaded with buzzwords about service and impact, it sounded beautiful. But here's the truth nobody was supposed to notice. Archewell isn't a charity first, it's a PR shield. It's a tax write-off machine. It's a financial buffer that allows luxury living to masquerade as philanthropy. And once you examine the filings, that illusion disintegrates fast.
Meghan said that she ordered like 1 million jar toppers or whatever. And I'm beginning to think that's somewhat true. And unfortunately for her, I don't think it's going to be a bargain that worked out well for her, or a gamble that worked out for her. And I just did want to show you guys.
Let's talk numbers, because numbers don't lie. In 2024, Archewell spent $5.1 million. How much did they bring in? $2.1 million in donations. That's a collapse from the year before. But here's where it turns grotesque. They paid $913,000 in salaries for a staff that had shrunk down to 2 people by the end of the year. 2. That's nearly $500,000 per person. For what? Answering emails, scheduling photo ops, and then comes the smoking gun.
Everything Harry and Meghan do is topspin, trying to convince the world, and very often the mainstream media are sucked in, that everything's okay. But it's really not. And the first revelation in regards to Archewell is that the charity is down to just 2 staffers.
$2.9 million in other expenses. Security, travel, administrative costs, translation, private jets, luxury accommodations, full-time protection, lifestyle overhead, all paid through a charity. Meanwhile, actual money given to real causes, $1.25 million. Let that sink in. They spent $5 million. They donated $1 million. Where did the other $4 million go? Into Meghan's wardrobe. Harry's legal battles, their Montecito mansion bills. This isn't charity. This is laundering reputation through nonprofit paperwork. And people inside Archewell knew it.
The New York Post reporting that indeed it is now operating as all smoke and mirrors. Sarah Nathan, who is their editor at large, said that Harry and Meghan have been forced to downsize the staff as it was costing them so much. The big question was, would Archewell close or would another charity take over? Harry and Meghan were looking to get a fiscal sponsor, someone to take on the outgoing costs and to keep things cheap. Really, it's all smoke and mirrors. Page 6 confirmed that 3 members, 60% of the charity staff, have now been let go. But of course, what this tax information really reveals is that they are using Archewell to fund their lifestyle, not to change the world, because the security bill alone said to be around $2 million a year, with money flowing out of the charity. So Archewell actually recorded total expenses of $5.1 million, according to its latest 990 form. Salaries for 2024 were listed at $913,000. Expenses were up 54% year on year, soaring from $3.3 million. Other expenses recorded at $2.9 million. Meanwhile, donations and grants to the group dipped from $5.3 million in 2023 to $2.1 million in 2024. Insiders skeptical of how Archewell, which doled out $1.25 million in grants in 2024, can continue. The source said if they're shooting out grants, then that's a net loss and they're not bringing in that much money. So Brittany, when you think about this, I believe it is clear exposure of what Archewell really is. A PR project. Nothing more. It's disgusting.
Staff didn't just leave, they ran. Archewell went from 5 employees to 2 in 1 year, a 60% collapse. And the 2 biggest exits tell you everything. James Holt, the longtime spin doctor, gone. Back to the UK. The man who spent years turning failures into wins finally bailed. Then Meredith Maines, hired to clean up the operation, legitimize the brand, and stabilize the mess. She lasted months. Why? Because she was forced to publicly lie. The Kardashian birthday scandal, the fake no photos form that never existed. She was sent out to protect a narrative that wasn't real, and hours later, she was gone. When even your professional liars won't lie anymore, the operation is dead. But while Archewell was collapsing, Meghan's big comeback business was quietly turning into a catastrophe. And that's where things get even worse, because someone noticed a glitch, and that glitch exposed everything. A Reddit user discovered that by adding absurd quantities of products to the As Ever website cart, the backend revealed actual inventory counts. What they found was devastating. $23 million in unsold product. Let me repeat that. $23 million. Meghan isn't sold out. She's buried. She's sitting on 137,455 fruit spread gift boxes. She sold 26 units units in 24 hours. At that rate, it would take 9 years to clear inventory. 9 years. And these are perishable goods. Jams expire, spreads mold, candles don't magically sell themselves. This is business suicide. But here's the most deceptive part. When As Ever launched, headlines screamed sold out. That was intentional. She massively understocked. A few hundred units. Just enough to create artificial scarcity. Then she ran to glossy magazines claiming explosive success, and on that fake momentum, she ordered hundreds of thousands of units. Curiosity buyers remembered the price, tasted the product, and never came back. No repeat customers, no word of mouth, no demand. And now warehouses are full of jam nobody wants. But instead of stopping the bleeding, Meghan doubled down. Netflix show flop. Spotify dropped. Cookbook late and recycled. Lifestyle brand imploding. And while all of that burns, the IRS noticed. And now we reach the point where this stops being embarrassing and starts becoming dangerous. Because while Meghan is drowning in unsold jam, collapsing PR, and staff mutiny, the IRS is no longer ignoring Archewell. And when the federal government pays attention to a charity, it's never because things look good. Here's what set off the alarms. For 3 straight years, Archewell failed to file complete proper tax documentation. 3 years. For a 501c3, that's not a clerical error, that's a flashing red warning sign. That's the kind of thing that triggers audits, subpoenas, and very uncomfortable questions. And the timing is everything. Right when scrutiny started building, Archewell quietly rebranded itself to Archewell Philanthropies and shifted into a fiscal sponsorship model. That move isn't innocent. It dramatically reduces transparency. It makes tracking money harder. It blurs who controls what. In plain terms, it hides financial trails. And yet, even with that maneuver, one thing remains impossible to hide: charity money paying for personal lifestyle. Security bills, travel, administrative expenses, all routed through a nonprofit. That isn't clever accounting, that's illegal. You cannot legally use a charity to fund personal protection, private travel, or lifestyle overhead. That's tax fraud. And that's exactly why the IRS is now circling. But it gets darker, because in 2021, Archewell suddenly received $13 million, an enormous sum for a brand new foundation with no proven impact. Where did it come from? Government-linked sources. Many believe it flowed from USAID, an agency meant to fund legitimate humanitarian work, not celebrity vanity projects. And here's the disturbing allegation: Archewell functioned as a pass-through. Money in, money out. Not to real charities, but to politically aligned organizations. That's not philanthropy. That's laundering taxpayer money through a non-profit shell. And then something telling happened. In 2024, that funding stream dried up. Immediately, Archewell's donations collapsed from $5.3 million down to $2.1 million. Coincidence? Not a chance. The operation depended on government money to survive. When the tap turned off, the whole thing began to collapse in real time. And Meghan did what she always does when failure hits. She spent more, she doubled down. She refused to admit defeat. She kept burning cash to protect her image, and that desperation spilled directly into Harry. Because while Archewell imploded and As Ever failed, Harry suddenly developed a stalker crisis. How convenient. Harry appears in the UK for court. A woman approaches him. Security intervenes. Suddenly she's described as a dangerous threat. Except there's a problem. This woman is a known Sussex supporter. She's been photographed with Harry at Invictus events across multiple countries, smiling, taking selfies, posing. But now she's a credible danger. Why does that matter? Because Harry has been fighting for taxpayer-funded armed security in the UK and losing. To win, he needs to prove credible threat. And suddenly, he has one. That incident was presented to the Royal and VIP Executive Committee as evidence. And it worked. A fresh risk assessment. A narrative shift. Now, sources claim Harry's security approval is nailed on. And British taxpayers are furious. Because let's be honest about what's happening. Harry doesn't want to come back to the UK because he misses his family. He wants to come back because he's broke. Netflix is ending. Spotify already dumped them. As Ever is a warehouse disaster. Archewell is collapsing under investigation. There are no income streams left. But Harry burned every bridge. He trashed his family in Spare. He accused them them of racism on global television. He called his brother his enemy. So now he needs leverage. Security is that leverage. If the UK government grants him armed protection, Harry can spin it as validation. Proof he's still important, still royal adjacent, still deserving of privilege. And maybe, just maybe, that opens the door to money, access, and reconciliation. But here's the problem. The British public despises this idea. People are struggling. Energy bills are crushing households. Families are barely surviving. And now they're told their taxes may fund security for a multimillionaire who abandoned his country and insulted it from California. Princess Anne only gets protection on duty. Beatrice and Eugenie don't get it at all. But Harry wants it full time. That hypocrisy has lit a fuse. People are calling for protests. They're demanding titles be stripped. They're warning this could damage the monarchy itself because this exposes the core truth about Meghan and Harry. They want all the perks, money, status, security without any responsibility. They want celebrity freedom with royal benefits. They want to trash the institution and still be funded by it. And the public is done. So let's pull it all together. Archewell collapsing under financial scrutiny, millions spent, barely anything donated, staff fleeing, years investigating potential fraud, as ever, a catastrophic business failure. $23 million in unsold inventory, perishable goods expiring, 9 years to clear stock if she's lucky, Netflix flop. Spotify dropped, cookbook recycled and late, reputation shredded. And now Harry is manufacturing a security narrative to offload his financial collapse onto taxpayers while desperately trying to crawl back into the royal system he detonated. This isn't a comeback, this is the end game. The IRS investigation could lead to criminal consequences. The UK public has turned, the money is gone, the illusion has shattered. 2025 wasn't a turning point for Meghan and Harry, it was the conclusion. And the most successful thing Meghan created all year, an inventory of 137,000 jam jars nobody wants. That tells you everything.